I need to bring it to every man's attention that our sisters didn't become bitches till you became a dog. So I ask you to just make up your mind to be a king, just for shits and giggles. Okay? Make up your own mind to just stand up and be a king. And I guarantee you, our sisters will stand beside you and be
Last question, how do you...
Good afternoon. I'm your host, Danielle, and I'm bringing on special guest today. Mrs. Moore is on the line today. We're going to be talking about female mental health. Now, there's a lot that we're going to cover, a lot of information that you guys may or may not take is valuable, but I believe it's going to be essential. It's going to be very helpful for you to understand some of the struggles and challenges that females go through every single day. We have charts, we have statistics, you name it, we got it. And as of always, we want to thank everyone for tuning in to the Sisters Talk podcast. If you have any questions, make sure you drop them in the comments below. We do read live comments while we're streaming. So we have Ms. Moore, you're back.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't have any sound. I don't know what was going on.
The audio just went out. It's okay. Look, I told you the computer's tired today.
Right.
But today, like I told everybody, we're talking about feminine mental health. And some people are probably like, what is that? Well, it's mental health for women. Like we're going through, right now we're going through a lot. You know, they just passed this law where you can't even go eliminate if you need to, in case there was something crazy that happened to you. You don't have that right anymore. So our rights are constantly being vandalized every which way it turns. And when it comes to support and protection against DV, we don't have that sometimes because that's considered a civil case, a civil matter, to be legally correct. So there's just a few things I'm throwing out there to kind of get your minds going about what I mean when I say mental health for women. So Ms. Moore, can you let us know where you're from and give us a little bit of background of who you are?
Absolutely. So, of course, I actually originate from Colorado. I have a bachelor's in criminal justice. I've done everything from paralegal, customer service to IT. I've sold vehicles, like I've done it all. But what I've fully now understanding is that I'm a people's person. So through some of the pain and trauma, right, that I was trying to find outlets for, I went and I wanted to understand, how do we heal, right? How do we heal? How was people healing before all the synthetic medicine came, before all doctors existed, right? Before we knew any of this, how was people healing? Because we've been here since the beginning of time. So with that wanting to know, right, it took me down the avenue of, I got certified in essential oils. I got certified in holistic healing. I don't feel like I need a counseling degree, only because the shadow work that I do with people is really you finding you, right? I just walk the steps with you. I have nothing to do with you finding you. So that's why this topic is so special to me, because the only reason I got here is because I had to fight through my own mental health. Like, I had depression that I didn't even know existed. And I think a lot of us are going through that. And who do we talk to? Right? Anxiety. I had anxiety. Like somebody else had to point out to me, like, Danielle, I think you're having an anxiety attack. Because I didn't even know what it was. And I think that not only do we not know what it is, but our partners are not understanding it. Our partners are not. And then I'm single, right? There's a lot of single women, but everybody wants to say about somebody being crazy and attitudes and this. It's deeper than that. It's deeper.
Well, I appreciate you for explaining to us who you are, where you're from, and some of the challenges that you face. I'm sorry for the lagging. Like I said, I'm having some internet connection issues. But yeah, what you said is very real, very honest too. And I appreciate the transparency. In addition to what you're saying, digging deep, finding out who you are on an individualistic level, we have exterior stressors, I should say, that triggers us. We're thinking about, like, what if you are in a relationship or you're trying to be in one, and so you lack trust in others because of your previous experiences. And take Nia Long, for instance. She's one of the well-known Black women in entertainment, and she had been I don't know if you know who Nia Long is. I mean, I'm pretty sure you know, but do you know who the guy that she was engaged to? African guy. He was, like, I think he was one of the coaches for one of the basketball teams, but now he just landed a deal with the Rockets. Anyways, he cheated on her, and it was public, obviously, because people are always in celebrity gossip and business.
Right.
She had to deal with that humiliation face on in front of the public with children. She was hoping she was going to get married to this guy. She was engaged to him, for over 10 years, all for her to find out that he was cheating on her with one of his executives from the previous team that he was coaching. So you're dealing with working on yourself, plus you're trying to maintain a relationship with somebody who is untrustworthy. And it's just, women deal with a lot. And on the same end of that token, you have men who just want you to come into these relationships trusting them full-fledged, and that's impossible. In fact, that's idiotic to even go into a relationship trusting someone when they haven't given you anything to trust.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't think people understand mental health. That is not only, your emotional state, but it's also psychological as well as social well-being. Like, all that ties into your mental health, and people don't understand that. And people don't understand psychological means affecting the mind. So there's a lot of psychological things that happen, right? Affecting the mind. That can be in a positive way, and that can be in a negative way.
Yeah, agreed. And also, I think for females, women, especially mothers or wives and mothers, I should say, just being able to protect our space is essential, and we don't think about it. We kind of forget about it because we're so used to nurturing our families and being there for everyone except for ourselves. And that's where we run into these mental health issues because we didn't break, we didn't get enough sleep, we didn't take that vacation that we had been planning for the last 2 years because we're running the kids to practice, or we're at our husband's beck and call with whatever he needs or she needs, whatever the situation is. So we have to make time for ourselves, and we have to make clean-cut boundaries that allows us to decompress from the
Right, because it's also statistically known that we worry more, right? Because, like you said, we're worrying about getting our kids where we need to be, if they're sick, if we're sick, making sure that we're helping consistently, making sure that, like you said, we're doing what our husband needs us to do, like all of that. And then we forget to sit down and rest. Well, okay, being sleep deprived affects your mental ability. And like we said before, talking about it, dieting. A lot of us have these high sugar diets, and sugar's linked to depression, sugar's linked to anxiety. All of that is mental health. All of it.
It's so funny that you brought up because there's common mental health issues amongst women, and depression and anxiety are the top two. And after that, it's PTSD. And then potentially suicide attempts, as well as eating disorders. Those are our top 5 stressors.
Right.
Top 5.
And eating disorders all tie into a certain level of depression, right? because that's what happens. Like when me with my depression, I had an eating disorder. Like I wanted comfort food, right? So what I would do is when I was in my feelings, instead of acting out and tripping like everybody says, I'd go eat me some comfort food.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm not gonna cuss this dude out. I'm gonna go eat me a cheesecake. I'm
I'm gonna
not
do
gonna let him
both,
know that
but I'm
my
gonna do
feelings is
both
hurt. I'm
though.
gonna go eat this
No, he's gonna
cheesecake.
get cussed out, and I'm gonna still go get my cheesecake.
That
Like,
right now, if he call me while I'm eating this cheesecake, you about to catch it, homie.
but no, but
I
seriously,
already,
though,
but that's what happens, and that's what we're not, and that's what we're not taking into consideration either. And then that here comes irritability. So there's a lot of men complaining about women's attitudes. Okay, well that could be a trauma response. That can be poor dieting. That could be a number of things. You
or
just see it as an
it could be
attitude,
all of them.
right?
All of them, yeah.
It could be. Absolutely. And all you see is she has a poor attitude. It could be poor mental health entirely, right? It
Mm-hmm.
absolutely could be. And I think that's things that men don't understand. And some of that they're triggering. You see it. Look how they be trying to come for me. And
Yeah.
you. And you. And you're
Mm-hmm.
married. Look, you're happily married. And they're still like, you're this and you're that. And you.
Look, women do it too. So mostly, I'll say I get more heat from the women
Absolutely.
because I don't always agree with some of the things that women say or do, or even the
Right.
way they think, because I'm more
Exactly.
logic based, and women we're
Mm-hmm.
typically more emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Shelby says this is so true. Men don't realize how much stress that women carry. Yeah, and mainly they don't because they're not women. They're not nourishers. They're not childbearers. They have no
Right.
idea the amount of energy it requires for you to stay committed with just simply being a great mom or a great partner and mother, if that's your situation, that's your dynamic. The more critical part of this is what Shelby is saying here, is that they don't know how much stress that we're under. See, this
Mm-hmm.
that portion of her sentence really does kill women every single day, right?
Right.
A lot of people end up having aneurysms. A lot of them end up having high blood pressure, so
Yes.
on and so forth. And as a disclaimer, I'm not a medical doctor or a medical
Right.
professional.
No,
I'm
but these are
basically
statistically speaking.
right.
Absolutely, you're right. You're not saying nothing that hasn't been already said by medical doctors.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
then some of the things that we can do, in my opinion, to suppress some of these issues that develop over time is taking yourself in for an annual checkup, reducing your intake of carbs, as you said, Danielle,
Mm-hmm.
making sure that you're eating more vegetables and fruits, eliminating some of those dairy products as well, because you have to eat according to your blood type. And again, I'm not a doctor, but you can research this information. It's
Right.
available and free to everyone for now. I'll say that. So, taking your mental health is serious, also your physical health, because it all ties into the same thing. Your mind is controlling your physical. So if your
Mm-hmm.
mental is not intact, your physical won't be either.
Right. And I actually had to even do small. I had to do things like with my changing my eating habits, right? Because I absolutely realized that I had horrible eating habits. Like I wanted carbs, which turns into sugar. I wanted carbs and I wanted sweets to a point, right? When I was going through my depression. So what I started doing is I started mentally visualizing my plate in 4 sections, right? And then the two of those sections I would make sure is full of green vegetables. And this is just how I started proportioning for me. I started making sure, okay, this side is green vegetables. This fourth of my plate is going to be protein, right? And then maybe I'll do this little fourth right here with my rice or my little treat. It's just this little fourth. And I had to get consistent in doing that for me. It may wait for others. By all means, try it. Or it may be something that you have to start figuring out how to retrain yourself to do. It can be done, right? It can be done. It takes consistency. And
Right.
that's another thing that we kind of fall off after a while, like New Year's resolutions. Everybody
Mhm.
start out in the gym in January.
Ha!
February, they start dwindling.
baby, because I got 2 bellies right now. Stop playing with me. It's only April. But seriously though, and the fact
Right.
that I'm just being, I love to eat, and that is my issue, and I have identified that, and I know now I have to become more active. So it's good, ladies, if you take out that time, like I was saying earlier, to really have time for you, so you will know some of the things that you need to work on to make yourself feel and look better.
Yes.
So one thing I love what you just said about greens, like the amount of vegetables that you have on your plate is essential to regulating your hormones. So sometimes when we lash out at people, it don't have to be our partners or our kids,
Right.
people in general, is because our our estrogen is way out of whack.
Right.
And it's a lot of that has to do with some of it's hereditary, and some of that has something to do with the way we diet. So
Right.
Black women especially, we love to tear up soul food and all other foods that are heavy in grease, cheese, etc. We have to back off from that sometimes. Like if we really want to have longevity and we want to have happiness and control over our mental, we have to consider what we're putting into our mouths, literally.
Right.
I mean that sexually and also from a food standpoint.
Right, but absolutely, because like the what you just named, that kind of is the crack of food, right? That kind of is what that is, and we are self-indulging. That's why I said I too had an addiction, because I did. I had a food of addiction. That's exactly what it was. And let's even look further into that. Artificial sweeteners, right?
Yeah,
That causes issues with your gut health. Gut health is a lot, that's a big problem if it's not maintained, right? Because
absolutely.
that too will give a chemical imbalance.
Oh,
That
for
too
sure.
will cause mental disorders. Gut health is very important.
In fact, anything that we eat that's artificial, which there's a lot of artificial things out here. Cereal is artificial. Let's be
Right.
real. Carbohydrated drinks, artificial. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on because I don't want to get us eliminated off the social media
No,
platform.
but you're
But
absolutely right.
but I'm telling the truth here. But I won't name any products by brand. I'm simply
Right.
saying if you check the box, the back
Mm-hmm.
of the box or the side of the box, the ingredients are there. Nothing that I'm saying is magic
Right.
or created out of thin air. You have access to read and educate
Mm-hmm.
yourself about what you're putting inside of your body. And no one body is made the same. My genetic makeup is totally different from Danielle's. Even though we have the same name, we have two different genetic
Right.
makeups, two
And
different
we're
blood
both
types,
Black
possibly.
women.
Yeah, we're both Black women, but that doesn't mean I can go tear up a bowl of collard greens, mac and cheese, and fried chicken and live my best life the way Danielle can. No,
Right. Or
my
vice
makeup
versa.
is totally
Yes.
different, and we have to respect our body. Like our mindset may tell us something different, but our body will always speak to us and let us know when we're messing up. You have to listen to that.
And sugar is linked to, there is scientific research showing that sugar actually decreases our cognitive skills, right? So that there's a problem right there. That's going to cause mental health because we need our cognitive skills. That's where our intelligence comes from, right? That's
Mhm.
where our decision making comes from. So if you have a high sugar diet and you feel like you can't think clearly because you can't,
Right.
because you can't, and that causes mental health issues, and then you're sitting there feeling some type of way because you can't understand why you even did that, or why you were thinking that
I've
way.
actually had people tell me that. I would say to them, like they'll tell me what they confess to me what happened in their relationship, why they cheated, and I'm saying, well, they didn't even know the why. I'm sorry. They would tell me
Right.
that they cheated. I would ask the question, well, why did you make that decision to cheat on your spouse or cheat on your significant other? And they would really say they didn't know. And
Right.
part of me was like, BS. You have to. There has to be a reason for every decision that, at least for me, every
Right.
decision that I make in my life is made with intent and for a
Right.
particular reason. So if I
Right.
know I'm doing wrong, I made that decision to do wrong. Here's my
Right.
reason why.
But
But
what increases that impulsive thinking? What
sugar,
increases that? Because that
sugar,
that's what it is. Some
yeah.
people are very impulsive thinkers, and that can be increased by a horrible diet. Not just what's being poured into your system, because also things that you're watching, people that you're listening to, you know what I'm saying? Things
Programming,
like
of course.
that. Like, yes, like a breakup. You know what I'm saying? I remember, and I'm gonna just go off of me. I remember going through a breakup one time, and I should have cheated on repeat. When I found out he cheated on me, right? And
Mhm.
I had the opportunity to actually leave and go with something or somebody that everybody considered a better situation. I didn't go because of the love I have for this person, only to be betrayed. Right? It took a toll on my mental health, but also I'm playing I should have cheated over and over and over.
So
And that's
you're
playing
doing further
to my
damage.
mental health too.
Yeah,
right.
You're doing further damage. And it's so funny you brought that up because I'm gonna tell you a situation from my experience. When I was working in corporate America and I was completely severely oppressed every single day, none of my thoughts were taken in consideration. My authority was just walked right over because of what I look like. Right? I told one of the guys that I was dating at the time, I was like, when I get angry, I just turn on rap music. And he was like, rap music? He was like, isn't that the opposite of what you should be listening to calm down? And when he said that, in the moment, I didn't get it. Now that I'm older, a little bit wiser, I was in my 20s when this happened. I get it now. It's like I was only further fueling the disappointment,
the anger,
the anger, all of the negative energy that they were giving me. I just I put it up in flames.
Exactly what you're trying to get over. You're fueling it. That's exactly right. Yeah, exactly.
And part of that reason why I think a lot of us adults do it is because we weren't taught as kids how to diffuse dysfunctionality, disagreements, or conflict resolution. We weren't taught that. A lot of us weren't. And so
we're not
realistically,
even taught communication. Exactly. A lot of us.
Of course. And that's where we run into a lot of these issues. And over time, because we don't feel heard, because we don't feel respected, and the whole slew of lists goes on. And some of that is really true. We aren't respected. A lot of us are not heard because we are women, and we are Black women, to be specific. That only fuels the mental health disorders. Think about it. If you're already suffering from some type of depression, and you have people who are not supporting you, they're not listening to you. Well, then who do you talk to? Like you said earlier.
You don't have that support group that you need. And you're right. And that's what I did. And I started shutting down because it was like, they're not going to understand me anyway. They're not going to hear me anyway. They don't care. Nobody cares if I this. You know what I'm saying? Like, what am I here for? And that's what kind of started triggering me to know something's wrong. Why am I questioning my livelihood? Like, what do you mean? Why are you here? Why are you questioning that? That let me know something can't be right, because you shouldn't be questioning why you're here. Now I'm questioning my worth. And that's an issue. But I had to start really cleaning up every avenue of my life. I had to start changing what I eat. I had to start changing the people that was in my ear, because people will act like they're congratulating you, but then they'll turn around and say things like, oh, you can't do that, you can't do this. I
think we temporarily lost it. Are you still there?
Sorry, phone. I got a phone call. When I first started Match My Style, right, I had family members tell me, oh, that's not where it's at. Like healing's not where it's at. Well, okay, that's where it's at for me. I know I need to heal, and I know there's some other people out here that need to heal, and somebody's going to ask how to do it. Because one thing about me that I also had an issue with was going to somebody else. I don't want to pay somebody else to teach me how to get over my own feelings. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Especially experience them. I can't go sit in the office for 2 hours or an hour and talk to someone that doesn't culturally understand what I'm going through. How you gonna tell me to get over it? You don't even know what I experienced. And that will frustrate you.
Exactly. And that's a whole nother issue. That's also another one of the stressors or mental health disorders that a lot of women in general, mostly, Black and Hispanic, we deal with cultural influences.
Yes.
Just being the culture that we are, you have a lot of stresses of gender wage gaps that's going on. You have a lot of just assumptions that you don't know your job duties or how to perform them. That can also be added stresses. Our counterparts not respecting us based on our culture. Even within our own culture, that is. So that's even a heavier hitter than, just receiving racial biases because okay, you're black, I'm white. No, when a black man talks down on his black woman, that's even worse to me because you're from the same culture. You should understand my stress and my struggle to live in a
Right.
country that does not set up laws and systems that are in my favor. But yet
Right.
you guys are going back and forth. Why? Because
And,
communication isn't present.
yes, and we'll have black men tell us, "Well, put on your big girl panties and get over it," and then get mad because they feel like they're not being supportive when they too are going through the trenches of people not respecting them simply because of their color. You know what I'm saying? Oh, well, you got to put on your big girl panties, but if I tell you to put on your big boy panties, now I got an attitude.
Right. Most
Why we
definitely.
gotta even act like that towards each other in the first place? You know how stressful it is. I know how stressful it is. We sit here and cuddle, maybe watch a movie, do something else that it does not require us to attack each other. Let's figure out a way to remove the stress together
Yeah,
instead of
absolutely.
you attacking me and me attacking you.
Right. And but I think a part of that problem, and we were talking about this behind the scenes, is that a lot of men, no matter what race they are, they really don't understand a woman's struggle. I think even Shelby mentioned that earlier. They don't get it. And if they're not doing the research to read about some of these stressors like we're talking about today, like depression, some men, when you tell them that you're depressed, they don't believe you. They literally don't believe you because they don't know what depression looks like, even though they may themselves be dealing with depression because they're not educated in that area. So that's the reason why I always encourage people, listeners. Thank you guys, by the way, for tuning into the Sister Talk podcast today. What we're talking about, the topic that we're talking about is feminine mental health. But this mental health issue is a crisis amongst men and women. We have to know what these symptoms look like. Anxiety and specific phobias that we have. I know tons of people that suffer from anxiety, tons of them,
Yes.
like young,
Yes.
old, and in between. And I'm like, where is this coming from? It's coming
I
from
was just
some.
telling you I had a germophobia, which is kind of linked to OCD. Well, I had an OCD phobia because it was kind of linked to me wanting to control certain situations. I did have a certain level of control issues, and that came from me questioning my self-worth. Like I had to trace it all the way back down to where it was coming from. Why am I lashing out at people when they trigger me this way? Or if they say this, why does it trigger me? I
Mhm.
had to trace that back down to, you know what? Because you question your self worth. So when they start questioning your worth, it triggers you. I
Right.
had to start learning that. And that was what I had to fix. Well, why do you feel like you have self worth issues? This is how I literally had to start talking to myself. Why are you questioning your self worth? Why? What do you feel like you need to improve on? Not what everybody else is telling me, because that's what society does to us as women,
Yeah.
as people. Not what everybody's telling me. What do I feel that I'm lacking in? And that's what I had to start working on. It's not a problem that I don't have it fixed, right? I just got to admit
Right.
that there's a problem. And now I can figure out what avenues do I have to even try to fix it. But first,
Yeah.
I have to keep accountability and admit there's a problem. That
I
and
agree.
that's the hardest part.
It is hard, but the first step first is first though. You have to
Right.
first say to yourself,
Admit
what's
there's a
wrong with
problem.
me? Because some
Yes.
people aren't even addressing the fact that they have issues, and that's the
Right.
scariest part. That's on
Yes.
a female side and a male side of
Yes.
things. It's like if you keep running into the same issues at some point, I mean, no matter who you're with, or no matter if you're at work or in a relationship with your family, and you keep running into the same problems, at some point you have to ask yourself, what's wrong with me? Am I
Yes.
just being like hypersensitive to people's opinions about me, or constructive
Right.
criticisms, or
Right.
why can't I take constructive criticism? That's a question
Right.
you have to ask
Why is
myself.
their
Am I,
opinion so important?
am I insecure about something? What
Yes.
am I insecure about, and why? Where did that insecurity when did it develop? These are the questions that we need to ask ourselves, and we don't do that enough because we don't live within enough. we're always focused on the exterior and what's outward, what's in front of us, what we can see. But the most important thing that we need to be concerned about is us, what's inside of us. Because once we take care of what's inside of us, we can be a blessing to everyone else around us. But we don't think about these things.
Yes. No, and I have women that get upset when I do try to help them understand it, right? Like, for instance, me moving from Colorado to the South, it was honestly a big culture shocker because living in Colorado, you know, majority of colored people, we kind of live in one area. You know what I'm saying? There's parts of Colorado that truly you are not going to find a lot of colored people in that area. That's just what it is. We're not going to sit here and act like it don't happen. It does. But when I moved down here, you know, it's a predominantly colored neighborhood. Most of Fort Worth in Dallas, there's a lot of black people, way more than you'll see in Colorado. But one thing I noticed is, like, for instance, I see women that argue with baby daddies about having the new girlfriend around the kid. Don't have that bitch around my kid. Don't be having my kids around other people. So if I point out that's a self-worth issue, right? They feel attacked.
I mean, yeah, because it is. They're highly jealous and insecure.
It is.
Yeah.
Can't no other woman take your place.
Exactly.
If you talk to men, they love their mamas. There's some mama boys.
Yep.
You cannot be replaced. That woman over there, let her have that weekend.
Right.
Take your rest.
For real.
That's the time you kick up your feet and do you. Go to a spa. Go get a massage.
But see, that's something else by nature. Women are extremely jealous.
Competitive. Yes, and
jealous, period. Just like forget the competitiveness. We haven't even gotten that far. Number one, just starting as an individual, women by nature are jealous. That is the reason why women, you don't see big cliques of women being friends like that. Even if you see it in other cultures, it never really lasts because somebody's always going to fight over something, whether it's a guy or a situation that went down, because women can't set aside their irrational emotional behavior. That's the reason why me and women get into a lot of disagreements, because I'm gonna call you out on your BS just like I would prefer for someone to call me out on mine. We have to start thinking a little more logical than what we have been in the past. If we were to start training our minds to be better and higher and greater than our emotions, we get somewhere in life. Whether it's in our careers, in our relationships, it applies to everything. Sis, if you took the same strategic attitude that you do in your business, in your relationship, it would actually work.
Right.
I'm being honest with you right now. This is free game to whoever is listening. If you know that you wouldn't be business partners with that man, why the hell are you sleeping with him?
Right.
And that's a serious question. I keep seeing women of all races, they keep making the same mistakes. If this man that you're laying down with, you're sharing bills with, you're sharing food, you're sharing a roof, if you can't do business with him, you should not be dating him. You should not be marrying him.
Absolutely.
Period. You shouldn't even be having sex with him, because guess what? If you accidentally get pregnant by him, you should know he's not going to be responsible enough to take care of his portion of the child support. So now you're going to court. Now you're going to become a bitter baby mama, potentially, because you don't really want to leave him, but because he's not doing what you expected him to do. But you knew that when you got with him. You knew this already. Women are highly intuitive. God has given us the gift to see things before they happen. And we can get a very good perception of a person within maybe 2 or 3 days. I mean, I'll give you 4, because a lot of people are on extreme cap. They're going to show you a representative before
yes.
Correct.
And then get mad because you don't like the real them, because the representative they lied about is who you was really trying to date. And now I got to deal with the real you. Now you mad at me because you lied.
And on the other end of that coin, women, we have to be okay.
Women do it too. Yes,
we do, but women have to be okay with rejection. We're not used to rejection. So men get rejected every day, right? I can go to the gas station in the next 5 minutes and somebody like, hey, can I get your number? No. Why? I'm married. End of discussion. But that's still a rejection for him, right? Women, as you try to reject them, they start getting crazy. That's the reason why you end up seeing this whole repetitive, jealous, bitter baby mama, because he never wanted to be with you in the first place, but you kept pushing yourself on him. And now you have a baby, and now you expect him to stop, drop, and roll. For you, he was never into you. Y'all
Or
happy to
he's
be pregnant?
wishy-washy. Maybe he
That too.
was into you for a certain period of time and now he's moved on. Maybe you're baby mama number 4, so he already had this pattern and you're mad because you feel like you're not important enough to change his pattern. You're
Exactly.
not. He has to change that pattern. It has nothing to do with you. You just got caught in the mix. It has not. Don't internalize his actions. His actions is his actions. All you
Exactly.
can do is control you. And
That's
that's
it.
where women mess up too, because we sit here and we think, oh, well, I got the goat in this and I got the goat in that, and she couldn't do it, but I can. Why? Why?
And here's
And then
another
as
thing
soon as you
too.
can't,
Men are brightening up, like in a sense that they can identify women who have been under severe trauma. They
right,
see the signs now. Like
right,
women who don't have any substance, they're only thinking about fashion, money, what you can do for them. Men are wisening up and they're saying, you know what, I want no parts of that. I want a woman that I can actually build with. I want a woman who's soft and gentle, a woman who is not going to argue with me every time there's a disagreement, but actually hear my
yes,
side of things. Some of us can't even shut up long enough to hear the guy's side. He has a
right,
story to tell too within the argument.
right,
But we don't ever hear that because
yes,
we're so used to it being about me, 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 me. I'm not saying there's mental health illness, but that is a form of extreme selfishness that we have
it
to break.
is very, and that's a disorder of some sort. I mean, narcissists are selfish. You know what I'm saying? And that's absolutely true, because at the same time, women, we don't pay attention to what we may be triggering in him. Maybe he had a toxic mother. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he was raised in a situation where he had a toxic mother, and then you do something and it triggers that. You know what I'm saying? And now he lashes out at you, and now here you guys are back and forth and at each other's throat. Like it's and that causes more problems with mental health between the both of you.
Exactly.
All
I
those type of issues. And I wrote down other, because sometimes you're in a relationship and people's mental health change, right? They change. So maybe they started out and it was very minimum, but as time went on, their mental health issues grew into something else, right? So
right.
there was some of the symptoms that I wanted to write down that I kind of experienced that I didn't realize was part of depression, right? So some of the things I had wrote down was feeling overwhelmed, right? I felt overwhelmed
Mhm.
often, right? And we feel like, oh, that's a normal, it's a normal feeling, and it is to a point. But
Yeah.
when you're feeling it often,
Mm-hmm.
there's something a little deeper than that's a normal feeling.
That's right.
Right. And that was one thing I didn't pick up on when I was going through depression. And then appetite changing. Some people stop eating altogether. Some people
Yeah.
lose a lot of weight because they're going through depression. Me, I gained a lot of weight. And there's women who gain a lot of weight because they're going through depression. And men want to talk about, oh, she gained all this weight during our marriage and after she had that kid and blah, 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 blah. Well, then they don't look at, well, what are you putting into your wife? What are you spiritually putting into your wife's subconscious mind? Are you
Mhm.
calling her fat this? Are you
Right.
telling her she's sloppy? Are you telling her you're not attractive to her because she's gained these pounds? Like, how are you adding to the depression that you're not seeing?
And let me
Right?
say
And
and give women a point of advice in situations like that, because there may be some ladies that are watching or will watch later who's currently going through what you're discussing and describing. Be careful not to carry on other people's weight and burdens, because just because you're in a relationship, especially if you're not married, that's not your burden. Let that man handle his own issues. Just like how he's making you deal with yours, you deal with yours separately.
right.
Don't take on his too, especially if you're not his wife. And even if you are his wife, guess what? Never allow anybody to mentally abuse you, because at the end of the day, your mind is everything. Your mind is what keeps you functioning. Like if you didn't have your brain, you would have to be on a machine to keep your heart pumping, right? To keep you alive.
Right.
You have to be careful what you allow people to pour into you, and block anything that's negative and call it out in the moment. Don't let it
In the
keep happening,
moment, right
because
then and there.
people will just get comfortable and they'll constantly beat
Hmm.
you up
You
mentally.
got to call it out right then. All that,
Mhm.
I let it slide. Well,
Yeah.
why? Why did you
Or I
let it
didn't say
slide?
anything, because no, you need to say something.
Right, because now it's consuming your mental health because it bothered you, and now you're not saying that it bothered you, and
Right.
now you have mental health going on when you
Mhm.
could have just spoke against it, like you said, called it out right then and there,
Put it
and we're
down.
gonna deal with it right here and there. It's
That's
not gonna be a lingering thing that causes me more in mental issues because I can't understand why you keep doing it.
exactly.
Absolutely. So another thing that I noticed, right, was my sleeping habits changed. And honestly, I have friends that point it out now because now my sleep, when something's on my mind, I mean like heavily on my mind, I still have sleeping habits that change, right? Instead of me going to sleep, because let me tell y'all, I don't have a problem with sleeping.
Me either.
I
I'm
never.
sleepy right now.
Okay. I ain't never had a problem with
Yeah.
sleeping. But when I do and I can't and I fall asleep and I can't stay asleep
Mhm.
or I'm up 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, something's heavily on my mind.
Mhm.
Right. And I think that's sometimes that men don't see that. They think, oh well, she might be getting up to sneak on the phone, or women, she getting up to search my call list or whatever, and it really could be she's worried about something or
Mhm.
something's bothering her, right? And
Right.
she may not even honestly know exactly what it is at the time, right? Things like that,
That's true.
because we have very spiritual connections, whether we want to admit it or not, whether people want to talk about it or not. If we are producing people that's literally coming through our bodies and you don't believe that you have a spiritual connection to the universe, you're tripping. You are
But there are
absolutely
a lot of
tripping.
people tripping though. A lot of people don't.
And they
If
are.
they can't see it, they don't believe it.
Right.
You can't
They
see
don't.
disease either, but when the doctor tells you you're diagnosed with something, something
And
flips.
stop speak right. And stop speaking negativity over yourself. I cannot
Exactly.
stand when I hear a woman be like, "Oh, or people in general," and I correct everybody that I hear say it. "Oh, I'm stupid," or "I'm ugly," or "I'm the." I'd be like, "What? Why would you
But
say
you
that
know,
about
that's
yourself?"
taught. That's taught to them, like growing up. Maybe they had someone that was caring for them that used to talk to them like that.
Right.
That's something that I learned. It's unfortunate, but you have to teach. You have to unlearn the things that you've learned in life
And
to make.
you're right, because I see that in the stores too, which is what made me think about toxic mamas. Because I didn't got into it with mamas about their own kids. I absolutely will. I'm one of the people that advocate with kids, and that's another reason why I tend to have a hard time talking to men about being stepdaddies and stuff, right? And I have my own whole story about that I'm not gonna open up right now. But I don't see why it's so hard to love a person, whether they're little, whether they're I don't understand
Yeah.
why it's so hard to do that. So that's one of my things. But I do see moms look at their kids and be like, "You stupid ass, sit your dumb ass," you know what I'm saying? Like, I see that in the stores, and
Mhm.
even when I see it, I be like, "Why are you talking to your kids like that?
I
Why
can
would
tell
you
you
call
why. I
something
can
that
tell you
came
some of
out
the
of you
reasons why.
dumb?"
Some of these moms were taught like that by their mothers. That's number one.
Right,
Number
right,
two, they could be under some type of socio or economic stress or both.
right,
Right?
right,
Society, money's not right. Have to feed herself. Has to feed the kids too.
right.
Barely has enough to do it. Father is nowhere in the picture because he's choosing not to be. There's a lot of stressors. That's why we're talking about this today. Mental
Exactly.
health. If you're not, here's the thing, there's almost, I can almost be certain when I say this, there's a solution for every problem that anybody on this planet has.
Absolutely.
But you have to be efficient enough to search for the solution, and you have to let your guards down enough to connect with the people who can give you the resources to create the solution for your situation.
Absolutely.
It is
Absolutely.
literally that simple. Like, for instance, if there's somebody that's watching this show later on, you need residual income, email me.
Right.
I have a virtual call center
Absolutely.
opportunity for you. All you have to do is put it in a comment. Hey, I'm interested in the residual income. Put it in the comments below. I'll reach out to you. I'm all for helping anyone. It doesn't matter what you look like, what race you are, what
Right.
religion. I don't care about that. I'm just here to help if I can help.
Yes. And see, I do that with my holistic healing too. Like, I have very intimate conversations with multiple people about multiple things. And one thing I help them understand is you have a gift. Just do your gift. Because you do your gift, And don't worry about getting the money. The money comes because it's your gift, because that's something you are spiritually connected to. Just do your gift, use it as an outlet. I have a lady now that she's like taking off in poetry. You know what I'm saying? And that was because that was her gift, but she stopped doing it. She stopped using it as an outlet. And I had to remind her of that. And so she just got out and started doing spoken word. And I love spoken word. Like, I'm a couple of people's fan in spoken word. I'm now her fan because she just started. And I'm like, you are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You are absolutely awesome. But now it's taken off. And she didn't even think about it. Nobody thinks they're going to make money from reading poetry. I actually know a couple of people that make
From what
money
they're
from
naturally
reading
good at, but that's what
right.
makes it so incredible when you're doing something that you love. It's not even a job anymore.
Right.
It's that you thought enough of your friend to inform her, remind
Well, that
her.
was one of my clients. That's what I do in my holistic healing. You know what I'm saying? I
See?
help them set their self mentally free, like mentally, because we're so consumed with so much that society puts on us. Like, I help them just free your mind.
Yeah,
Free
that's
your
bottom
mind.
line. Bottom line. And you know
Yes.
what? I wanted to say for this topic, for those who missed, and I'm going to put this overlay on us.
Okay.
For those of you who missed this segment, Danielle was actually on this segment with me as well. Why Black women don't listen. Listen, make sure you go check it out. It's out there. It's on YouTube right now. I think it has over 100 views, and I want it to be 100 more, because the more people that see it, listen in, engage to it, you can grow from these type of conversations.
Absolutely.
Most people will never put a podcast out there called "Why Don't Black Women Listen?"
Listen, right.
But I'm a Black
Absolutely.
woman, and I know myself. It's hard sometimes for you to listen to nonsense. Bottom line.
And I'm a Black woman, and right now I'm a Black single woman. You know what I'm saying? And I'm kind of the image that men want to attack. Why you don't listen? It's not that I don't listen, but I am very particular on who I'm gonna listen to. You
That
know what I'm
part.
saying? And there's a whole lot of people out here that's just talking noise. So you can't ask me why I'm not listening when you see this man is on wife number 6. Why would I listen to him?
Yeah, yeah, you're not kidding.
Why? You know what I'm saying? He ain't talking about nothing. And not
Yeah.
only that, and that's again the trend, and that's something with mental health too. People do stuff for social, economic reasons, right? Men
Yes.
and women, we both tend to follow trends. Well, why would I follow somebody who's following a trend, right?
Mhm.
Why would I do that?
Right.
Especially if I don't agree with the trend. That's going to cause mental health issues because now I'm trying to be fake.
Yeah, exactly. But bottom line is, nobody's gonna listen to someone who doesn't deserve to be listened to. Like,
Right.
if you're not a leader, I'm not gonna follow you
Right.
into hell. Basically, like, I'm not
Right.
gonna do that.
And you're
I will
following
have to be obedient.
the latest trends. You're not a leader if you're following the latest trends.
Exactly. So when men start understanding that, when they start identifying, it's just like what I talked about on the last show that we did. When they identify what their traumas are and they heal from that, and they really find out who they are and they become real leaders, then we're listening, ears wide open, eyes open. But if you're you out here cheating, you're lying, you don't know who you are, you're just trying to belittle women, you're abusive physically and mentally, nobody's listening to you. Stop.
Right.
You
Right.
cannot regurgitate what Kevin Samuels used to say. Nobody cares what you're talking about, because you
Right.
yourself haven't identified who you are as a person, or better yet, as a man. You don't know who you are
Right.
as a man. So, and
Yeah.
women, we can sense that right away. That's what men have
Right.
to understand. Also, I wanted to talk about my late friend, Shayna Watson. She dealt with a lot of trauma growing up, and this was my childhood friend. God rest her soul. I wish that we would have had that opportunity to do a podcast together, which we had plans to do. So it didn't work out because we actually had a guest that tried to come on my show who was completely obliterated. He drank himself into a whole nother dimension. So that show didn't work out. But I put her picture up there for a reason, because she suffered from a lot of DV as well as mental abuse. And because she had friends like myself, and shout out to Crystal Mosley, who had her back, plus many other friends that she had, she was able to get past that era of her life as
Right.
much as she could, but it still ended up catching up to her, right? And it's not my story to tell, but I just want to say, guys, from sister to sister, that there's women out here that's really dealing with serious life altering situations as we speak. And
Right.
it is our responsibility as their friend, as their family member, to check on them to make sure that all is well. It takes you 5 minutes to reach out and make a text or a phone call to that person if you haven't heard from them in over, a week or two, maybe a month. If you guys only talk once a month, reach out, make sure that person is doing fine, and do it a step further. Don't just reach out to them on the phone. Actually meet up with them, take them out, sit down, talk, walk at the park, whatever you guys do. I don't know what all people do in these friendships, but I know her and I, we used to crack jokes. And I mean, we would just laugh about some of the worst situations that ever happened in our lives. And that's how we found happiness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Beyond all of the tragedy, beyond all of the hurt and pain. But sometimes that's not enough. So
Mm-hmm.
know people that, or even you yourself, are going through some type of struggles in your life. My best advice is to get help. Number one, seek God if you're religious. If you're not religious, seek therapy, and surround yourself around people who actually love you. That's not wasting your time. That's not BSing
Right.
you. They really want to see the absolute very best in your life. If you surround yourself around people that are jealous of you, who are envious, and who don't care about you, you're never going to get better. They're going to take you on a highway to hell real quick, really quick.
And y'all, from a holistic standpoint, right, there is things that we can do that will help with depression, right? That's other than the medications. And I'm not saying don't take your medications, right? What I'm saying is with depression and anxiety and a lot of other mental health disorders, all of this stuff is not always diagnosed. Right. You don't always know what you're going through. But one thing that I know, and you have to be consistent when you want to heal, is that you have to start getting rid of the negativity, right? Because you're feeding your subconscious negativity. So if you're thinking negative thoughts about yourself and then you start feeding yourself negativity, all of that is going to grow into something even more than what you bargained for, and you already are in a hole trying to dig your way out, right? So you have to take those into considerations, and then pay attention to colors. People don't realize how much color therapy is a real thing. It's a real thing, y'all. And I'm not gonna go into the details about it unless you contact me individually. But Google color therapy, Google aromatherapy, right? There's certain aromas that will trigger a calming spirit, a relaxing spirit, a spirit of feeling more secure. There's certain aromas that will trigger that. Not something you consistently have to do though. You can't do it once or twice and be like, I didn't notice no change, so I'm not
Mhm.
gonna do it anymore. These are things you have to consistently do because
Right.
you're fighting against depression. Depression's not a, oh, you can take a pill and you feel better. No. And then sometimes you take those pills and you can't think at all, right?
Mhm.
I've had people to say they won't take the pills because they can't think at all. Okay, well, you have to do something. So get up, move around. Maybe you don't like, what I'm saying, going to a gym. Dance,
Exactly.
Zumba,
Listen, in my
whatever you
20s, I
like to
used to
do.
go to the club twice a week. And I'm not embarrassed to say that was my workout. That was the way I released my endorphins. Like, I had a good time and I stayed happy
Right,
when a lot of women around me were upset, cranky. I didn't understand it. That's the reason why I don't have that many female friends, because the emotional level is always off. Like, it's always something,
right,
it's always drama. And that's not my
right,
spirit. That is not my
right.
spirit at all.
No. And they don't understand we can't all be happy. But I think too, what we fail to realize as women is there was a period where we didn't have rights. So just like people keep hollering about all the effects that slavery did, y'all have to remember that a lot of these women groups came from eras where women didn't have no say so. We didn't have voting rights either. And at one point in time, we was treated like just property as well.
Exactly.
And that's things that people don't realize too. We still have that generational trauma that we have to overcome too,
Hmm.
because we didn't have this. Like, women formed groups and started fighting for our rights, like, because we didn't have a say so. We
Exactly.
didn't.
That's true.
And that's what we're forgetting too.
We are forgetting that. And men are forgetting that too. So that's the reason why we're bumping heads, and it's so deep. That's like information that we should save for a whole nother topic. Because I mean, seriously, we could go for hours about
Right.
what you just mentioned. That's so true. I want to give some advice before we wrap up for today.
Okay.
For ladies that are dealing with stressors at work, at home, in your social life, just try to get 15 minutes of sunshine every day. That's going to
Yep.
boost your vitamin D levels, and it should elevate your mood. A lot of you guys are vitamin D deficient and you don't know it. So that's one thing I want to say. Spend about half an hour in nature, just walking. If you're in a heavily wooded neighborhood like I am, I'll go walking every day when I can, when my schedule allows, and even when it doesn't, I make time to go out and get fresh air. It makes a huge difference. You can choose park trails, parks, beaches, anything to give yourself a nature boost. And then also take a short trip. You may not have the funds to go to Hawaii or Greece, Okay, well, go drive to, I don't know where you guys are located, but drive like 250, 300 miles away from where you currently live and see something different. You'd be surprised how the scenery can change, the people, and how that experience alone can just boost your confidence, calm you, reduce any anxiety that you may be feeling at home. Because when we're at home, we have good energy, good vibes, unless you're around people within your household that are giving you bad vibes. And that means you need that separation to recoup and get back to who you really are. Also, something that I know you guys aren't going to do, but I'm going to say it anyway. Unplug your devices. Turn your cell phone off. Unplug your, what do you
Please.
call your laptop, your God, everything is electronic now.
Electronics.
Everything. Alexa, unplug it. No
Get away
music,
with
no
it.
talking to anybody. Just be with you. Deal with what's within you. And that's what I was talking about earlier, is that we don't spend enough time with ourselves. I don't mean being lonely and alone.
Right.
Talk to yourself. Ask yourself questions. Catch up to where you are in your life, present day. Be present. A lot of us are still living in the past. Some of us
That's
are living at the
manifesting.
future, and you have to learn how to stay in the moment and find out where you are right now. You might not be where you think you are. That outer shell may look glossy and glittery and glamorous, but what you're dealing with inside is a nightmare. It's a disaster. And so that's the reason why you're emulating all this negativity and you're attracting all of these bad events that are happening to you because you're not dealing with what's going on within. So I wanted to say that too. And also my last bit of advice would just be, ladies, please, please, please practice forgiveness. I'm talking to myself too. Practice forgiveness. That is one thing that I know was not taught to me enough. You have to practice forgiveness. Forgive yourself and forgive others. I didn't say forget, but I said practice forgiveness. Because when you forgive people, and especially when you forgive yourself, you set yourself free for all type of golden, prosperous, and abundant opportunities in your life. It's going to clear up your mental health. Trust me, when you practice that forgiveness, right? Practice transparency too. Because in order for you to achieve that forgiveness, you have to learn how to be transparent. When you walk in your truth, God will open up so many doors for you. If you've been praying for that husband, honey, you might be working with him, but you need to tell somebody your story first. And you have to be brutally honest. You have to be transparent, and you have to be on a path where you're willing to forgive, to move on. And that's
so that you can be open to that, right? Because you got to be open to that. Because maybe he'll come with some weird pickup line, and you're like, oh, but you got to be open to the energy of this is my husband, even though he's a little weird in his language.
Right.
This is my husband. I got to be open to that energy.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you have any closing words, ma'am?
I just want to say, definitely, ladies, don't take on other people's actions. Don't internalize that. You know what I'm saying? Because that is the number one thing that us as women do. Don't internalize that. And like Danielle said, take time to yourself, but also invest more into like citrus smells. Citrus is a very uplifting odor. Okay. If you're very spiritual, aromas was pleasing to the Most High, right? It's all through the Bible. They use incense and stuff all through the Bible. So incense, I mean things like citrus. Citrus is uplifting. Oranges, lemons, anything. Drinking it eating it, citrus, go with citrus. It also will help with your pH balance. It helps kill germs. Like there's a list. These are just the small things that you can consistently change, and you'll see a big change over time. So between the two advices that we both have, I think you'll see a change, right? And we're not saying this is going to heal everything overnight, because healing is not an overnight process. But you have to trust the process. Trust the process, because it's worth it.
So between the two Danielles, you have your resources. You have Miss Moore you can go to for the holistic healing approach. You have me if you're trying to get your finances in order. So, ladies, the floor is yours. You have our information, and even if you don't, you can email me, and I'll make sure to run it across the screen here in just a second.
My website is matchmystyle2020.com, y'all. Y'all can send me a
type it in a private chat, and I'll stream it across for people to get it.
Okay. Y'all can send me your information on there, and I will reach out to you. Contact information. Absolutely. Again, I do holistic and positive coaching. Sorry, I'm trying to type and talk. It doesn't work for me all the time.
No, you're fine. I'm going to stream my email. So, guys, if you need residual income opportunities, you have my email address, sistercwt@gmail.com. I'll be happy to read and return the message letting you know where we can put you in a virtual call center opportunity, different types of organizations. I don't want to put it out there. We'll just have that private conversation behind the scenes. We're always here to help. That's the reason why I created my business, is to help our community. All right. And I'm going to put Mrs. Moore's information here. This is for holistic healing. All right. Let me stream it across for you. Actually, it should just pop up. There we go. All right. So now you have Mrs. Moore's email, and you have mine streaming along the bottom, guys. I really do hope you enjoyed this segment on feminine mental health. We covered a lot of ground today. So much more that we could have talked about, but we just don't have enough time. And Shelby says, thank you. I will inbox you great messages. Have a blessed Sunday. You too, Shelby. Thank you so much for tuning in, and make sure you share, like, and comment this video to other women who may need it. Women and men. Men need to understand the way we think. They need to understand our challenges as well. That's the whole purpose behind us doing what we do. And I'm going to put Mrs. Moore's email address back on there for people who need holistic healing. And also streaming below again is my email address for people who need residual income opportunities. Summertime's coming up. You guys want to take trips, so I know you're going to need the cash. That's one less stress you have to worry about. Okay. Absolutely. And it's work from home. Best thing about it. All right, guys. So as always, Miss Moore, if you can, bear 5 minutes behind the scenes. Guys, to the audience, I just want to thank everyone for tuning into the Sisters Talk podcast. You know how I do it. I'm always going to talk about the topics that need to be talked about. On next Sunday, I'm going to have Lady Bird. I have the pleasure and the honor to have Miss Lady Bird on the show. We'll be talking about altered motherhood. And for those who don't know who Lady Bird is, you can find her on TikTok or Facebook. She is an African-American woman who contracted HIV from her partner. And she had 2 twins as a result of that marriage, who also were born with HIV. So, guys, this is going to be a show that you do not want to miss. And again, I'm honored, giving all praises to the Most High for giving me this opportunity to interview such important and impactful people in our community. So without further ado, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. You guys have a blessed Sunday. Until we meet again, May 7th, be blessed.